a home where a 39-year-old man was pronounced dead on the scene, as police say it was likely due to fentanyl.
I never thought it was here at a local level until this occurred.
Every day in Kansas, 1 or 2 young adults die from fentanyl poisoning.
An investigation is underway in Kansas City, Kansas, after a shooting between police and accused fentanyl dealers.
We went to effect an arrest, and at that point, there was gunfire.
It's crushing. It's terrible.
Fentanyl crimes are on the rise. You're taking a look inside Kansas politics. Welcome in. I'm Rebecca Chung. According to the CDC, more than 150 people die every day from overdoses related to synthetic opioids like fentanyl. The message law enforcement is sharing: even one pill can kill. Joining me now is KBI Director Tony Mativi to talk about how they're combating the deadly drug in Kansas. Tony, thank you for joining us.
Sure, glad to be here, Rebecca. Thanks for having me.
Now let's start with some stats on overdose deaths in Kansas. This was from testimony in the legislature earlier this year, and it breaks down numbers up to 2021. So the Kansas Office of Vital Statistics identified 678 drug overdose deaths among Kansas residents in 2021. 63% of those deaths involved opioids. The number of drug overdose deaths was a 42% increase compared to the number identified in 2020. And over a 10-year period, so from 2012 to 2021, synthetic opioids involved in overdose deaths have skyrocketed by 790%. Now, these are some shocking statistics, and the numbers, as you've mentioned before, continue to increase. Right. So where do things stand now?
Where we stand now is, having survived the crack cocaine epidemic, having survived the meth epidemic, and we're not out of that, by the way, right? I mean, here in Kansas, meth is still the #1 submission we see at the KBI laboratory. But having survived those 2 epidemics of drugs, we're, I think, looking at what is the front end of a tidal wave. I mean, the really shocking thing about the fentanyl numbers is the trajectory. So the numbers that you cited were really staggering. At the KBI lab, for the last 2 years of information that are available, the number of meth submissions has increased over 900%. And we're not seeing that plateau. We're not even seeing it taper off. And that's what's really concerning. So the number of overdoses continues to rise, the number of overdose deaths continue to rise, and we're very concerned about that.
Now, what do you think is contributing to the spike we've seen in fentanyl-related crimes and overdoses nationally and in Kansas?
What's contributing to it is that there's more fentanyl coming into the country, the price is dropping, the availability is going up, and it continues to be an incredibly lethal drug.
It begs the question as well, where is the drug coming from? Or is this something law enforcement is still trying to identify?
No, there's no question about that. The source has been identified. This is a cartel-driven product. So when the fentanyl crisis started, we were seeing it come in from China. What happened then was the cartels realized how lucrative fentanyl is. It is the most lucrative drug that society has ever seen. Once the cartels realized that, they immediately elbowed the Chinese out of the way. And what we're seeing now is precursor chemicals go from China to Mexico. The fentanyl is manufactured in Mexico from those precursor chemicals, and then it's trafficked into the United States entirely by the drug cartels.
So China, Mexico, main sources for this?
China, main source for the precursors, Mexico, main source for the fentanyl.
Gotcha. And I know that a record number has been seized at the border, correct?
Yes, correct.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, even though a record amount has been seized at the border, we know that there's more coming across the border than there ever has. So when you put those 2 together, it just means that there's more fentanyl coming to this continent and then in turn coming through the border to our country.
Thank you for that, Tony. And we're just getting started. Coming up, law enforcement is eyeing new solutions to tackle opioids. That includes working with the feds.
Too many people have fallen victim to both overdose and opioid-fueled violent crime.
We'll tell you how a new state task force is taking on the fight against fentanyl right after the break. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
Protect your home from sudden power outages with a Generac home standby generator installed by Shockwave Electric certified experts. Call Shockwave Electric for all your commercial and residential electrical services.
Growing the market for Kansas-made E15 is a win-win for Kansans. What's E15? It's fuel with 15% ethanol compared to the usual 10% in regular unleaded. E15 is more affordable, has better performance, and runs cleaner than regular unleaded, meaning Kansas drivers can go further for less. From helping Kansas farm families by stabilizing grain prices, helping Kansas become more energy independent, and adding more than 4,000 jobs in Kansas, more of our money stays right here at home because of ethanol. Visit fueledbykansas.com to find a station near you.
Join us August 19th for the Denim to Diamonds Gala. There's no place like home. Scan this QR code or go to the website to purchase tickets and bid on the virtual auction. Then join us for the live auction, dinner, and much more August 19th at Townsite, Topeka.
Our station group is adding to our sales team. It's your chance to join the fast-paced and exciting world of digital and local television sales. We're looking for energetic, hardworking applicants with sales experience. We want you to be part of our team. Apply online today at ksnt.com.
Next live, Sebastian Maniscalco from his film About My Father. Plus the perfect smartphone photos and summer school week.
Get out your cell phone cameras.
Monday morning at 11 on 27 KSNT. This week's Morning Coffee Club prize is a rain gauge, sponsored by Kansas 811. Sign up at ksnt.com for your chance to win. Then watch 27 News weekday mornings from 5 to 7 to see if you've won.
This week's Pets in Need Spotlight is Cheyenne. Cheyenne is a pit bull mix and almost 3 years old. She's a skilled jumper and climber, but also loves to be next to her human when napping. You can meet Cheyenne at Helping Hands Humane Society.
Of course I know the theme song.
Entertainment Tonight. That's what people want.
It's hard to think of Entertainment Tonight without it.
Oh, I know it!
I mean, come on. Since I was a little kid.
This is Entertainment Tonight. This is the Bible of show business.
Weeknights at 6:30.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. I'm Rebecca Chung. Kansas has a new task force aimed at tackling the fentanyl crisis. It's a partnership between state and federal officials. I was there to witness the next steps they're taking to combat the deadly drug.
But what you just saw that's his reward.
You're watching video of the first fentanyl detecting canines in Kansas.
Duran is certified to track scents in critical operations.
It's one of the strategies used by the Joint Fentanyl Impact Team, the latest effort to combat fentanyl trafficking in Kansas.
The number of fentanyl submissions to the KBI lab was up 900% between 2020 and 2022. We have to put ourselves in a better position to be able to intercept the drugs that are being transported into and through our state.
The team is comprised of Kansas Highway Patrol troopers and special agents from the Kansas Bureau of Investigation and Homeland Security Investigation.
Too many people have fallen victim to both overdose and opioid-fueled violent crime. Even one death is one too many.
It's smuggled into and across Kansas in a variety of transportation modalities: air, rail, parcel, automobile.
The new canine unit is part of the Kansas Bureau of Investigation, and according to law enforcement officials, it will play a critical role in increasing the amount of seizures, getting the drugs off the streets. They say the 4 canine officers were just recently trained and certified in detecting illegal drugs, including fentanyl.
This was the most we were able to do right now. We may be coming back and wanting more later. I can't say that we won't. I wish I could tell you that what we're doing is going to be enough. I fear that it's not.
Wow. Now, this new task force features Homeland Security, the Highway Patrol, and even a set of fentanyl tracking canines. But you said you fear that even these efforts are not enough to combat the tidal wave of fentanyl the KBI is anticipating. So what do you mean by that?
Well, I'm really excited about this task force because what we're seeing is the state agencies coming together, the Highway Patrol and the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. We each bring unique strengths. We're teaming up on a statewide basis. We're being joined by the federal government. You saw Homeland Security Investigations is joining us. And then we even have a public-private partnership going on because the Wichita Metro Crime Commission has stepped up and contributed funding for the canine program. So it's a really exciting opportunity, I think, for cooperation among law enforcement. The difficulty is that no matter how well we cooperate, no matter how many resources we throw at this problem, it really is a tidal wave. With the trajectory that I talked about earlier, the increases in exposure to the drug, the increase in lethality of the drug, the skyrocketing number of overdoses and deaths, I fear that no matter how many resources we throw at this problem, we're just not going to be able to keep up with the demand. And that's why I said at the press conference, we are a law enforcement agency. We are doing targeted enforcement at fentanyl, at the problem, but we are not going to be able to enforce our way out of this problem. We have to educate the public. We have to make people aware of just how dangerous this drug is.
So it's not just a partnership between state, federal officials, but it's also a partnership with the community.
Absolutely. We saw the Wichita Metro Crime Commission step up, but we have to get the word out. We have to raise public awareness. We have to educate parents, teachers, and kids that taking a pill, a single pill, even if it's not something that you would think would contain fentanyl, we're seeing it in oxycodone, we're seeing it in Adderall, we're seeing it in Xanax. So when the DEA says one pill can kill, that's not hyperbole, it's not embellishment, it is the truth. Taking a pill that you didn't receive from a pharmacist is like playing Russian roulette.
The task force has made some headway already. Earlier this month, on Monday, June 12th, around 12:30 p.m., a task force investigation into suspicious activity led to the seizure of about 25,000 counterfeit oxycodone pills, commonly referred to as dirty 30s. The pills were suspected to contain fentanyl and in total weighed approximately 11.5 pounds. That occurred near the intersection of Central and Oliver in Wichita. What else are you expecting to come from having this new task force?
So when I was nominated for this position by the Attorney General, he instructed me to go out and do everything that the KBI could possibly do to interrupt fentanyl trafficking into and through the state of Kansas. That's what led to the creation of the task force. The purpose of this task force is to go after every single modality by which methamphetamine can be transported into or through this state. So the Highway Patrol is already out there on the roadways doing interdiction work. They do wonderful work, very talented, capable troopers. But we're going to increase that. We're going to go after methamphetamine that's transported by motor carrier, by rail, by air. We know that a lot of these drugs are being flown in general aviation aircraft. And then finally, we know that a lot of it is being shipped in package interdiction. And the canines are going to be able to help us in each of those areas.
Now, here's something that was also mentioned at the press conference for the task force that really stood out. They said that this was one of the first times that law enforcement is becoming so vocal about an issue like this. So how does this speak to the impact of what we're seeing with fentanyl?
Yeah, so I talked about the fact that it's so incredibly dangerous. The lethality is really overwhelming. 2 micrograms of fentanyl, that can fit on the head of a pencil. That's enough to kill a person. And so this drug is so dangerous that we have to get the community on board. We have to bring them into our eradication efforts. We have to educate and make people aware of just how dangerous this drug is. I don't remember law enforcement getting this vocal about an issue in the past, but public awareness and public education are absolutely crucial to saving lives in these cases.
All right, thank you. And after the break, we're getting answers on how this drug is being distributed and what you should look out for. We'll be right back. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
We just lowered prices on our best floors at the Floor Project. I knew you'd like that, Ruggles.
And you will too when we put every luxury waterproof floor on sale. All brands featuring Cortec. All styles including Cortec planks and tiles. All looks from hand scraped to textured. No one has more luxury vinyl floors in stock at savings up to 62% off and up to 60 months free financing too.
Save money, no worries. That's what the Floor Project is all about.
Family Service and Guidance Center's 17th annual Works of Heart fundraiser is Saturday, August 5th. Bid on amazing auction items including artwork created by FSGC client children, home decor, fun experiences, professional artwork, and more. Event proceeds will provide hope and healing to thousands of Northeast Kansas children with mental health challenges. Visit fsgctopeka.com/art and start bidding today.
Mouthwatering, enticing, satisfying. Taco Villa. Since 1973, Taco Villa has been serving up their own style of delectable Mexican food, from the thing to the nacho platter to the low-carb salad and everything in between. Taco Villa satisfies. Take it to the next level and smother anything in our famous signature chili con queso. Get your fix, dine in, carry out, or call ahead with your order. Taco Villa on 21st next to the toy store.
Talk to people about siding, and talk to people about windows, and talk to people about decking.
And it was just beyond me, and I couldn't get it to fit together. And Window Design came in and they basically put it all together. I would recommend this company to anybody, my neighbors especially, because they've all come over and wanted to see my house. It was a great experience, and the product obviously speaks for itself.
Let us make your dream project become a reality. Call the experts at Window Design and Remodeling. We are your home remodeling specialists.
Where should I walk? Right here? Is this good?
Yeah, you can walk right there. This is your show. Do whatever you want.
You walk in.
It's live with Kelly and Mark.
Wow, that was a nice reception.
Every weekday morning.
We're sitting on a couch with the new co-host, husband and wife team.
Weekdays at 11 on 27 KSNT.
Welcome back. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics, where we're getting answers on fentanyl from KBI Director Tony Mativi. Tony, let's get into it. At the press conference, it was mentioned that it's being smuggled into Kansas through air, rail, a variety of ways. Then we also know that it's being trafficked on the internet. So what trends is the KBI noticing when it comes to how this drug is being distributed?
The trends that we're noticing is it is the cartel that's driving this. It's entirely a cartel-based issue. We're seeing it sold increasingly on social media, especially to kids. You saw Mr. Burris earlier in the show. His son Cruz, we know he obtained that on Snapchat. He got on Snapchat, he ordered the pills, delivered to his house after his parents had gone to bed. Fentanyl is so available right now to kids on social media. I've heard Senator Marshall remark before that it's easier to buy fentanyl now if you're a kid than it was for him to buy a beer. And that's really true. So the dealers are using social media to very quickly and easily put it in the hands of kids. That's one of the really tough things to address about it, and why it's so crucial that we get the public involved, the communities involved in helping us address this.
Why are children being targeted, do you think?
So it's not just the children being targeted. The cartels are making incredible amounts of money from this, so they really are targeting everyone. The children are just particularly vulnerable.
Gotcha. Now, since this is being distributed in a number of ways, some people may come across it and not even know about it, correct?
Right. So one of the things that makes this so tough to address is that we're seeing fentanyl literally everywhere. So fentanyl is being mixed with literally every single kind of illegal drug you can do. We're seeing it mixed with methamphetamine, we're seeing it mixed with crack cocaine, heroin. We're not seeing it mixed with heroin, we're seeing it masquerading as heroin, right? So it's very difficult to get heroin on the streets right now. What you're getting is fentanyl that's camouflaged to look like heroin. We're seeing it sprayed on marijuana. In addition to that, we're seeing it sold in pure form, dirty 30s or pure fentanyl powder. And then finally, we're seeing it introduced into pills where you wouldn't expect to find it. Oxycodone, Adderall, Xanax. So, a kid in high school or junior high can try to buy an Adderall and end up with a pill that contains fentanyl, and it ends up killing them.
Wow, so they really have to be careful about what they're getting.
If it's a pill that you didn't get from your pharmacist, you have no way of knowing that there's not fentanyl in there.
So what should people know about the threats this drug poses and how to keep themselves safe?
They should know that it's incredibly lethal. They should know that it's incredibly unpredictable as to the amount that you will see in any given product. Whether it is a joint that is sprayed with fentanyl or a dirty 30, you don't know how much fentanyl is in there. It could be an insignificant amount. It could be maybe just enough to get you high, or it might be enough to kill you. And that's why I say it's like playing Russian roulette.
We've also seen some changes made in Kansas to address the fentanyl crisis. That includes legalizing fentanyl test strips this year. How will this new move impact what the KBI and law enforcement is able to accomplish? And could this potentially lower the risk of overdoses, do you think?
So I don't see fentanyl test strips really making much of a difference on what we do. We try to be data driven. As we look around the country at communities where test strips have been legalized, we see some success there. There are lots of drawbacks, though, to fentanyl test strips. I'm not sure how many lives they're going to save. We are seeing them make a bit of a difference, and I am in favor of anything that helps save lives.
Thank you, Tony. Up next, fentanyl crimes and overdoses aren't the only thing on the rise. Cybercrime and violent crime has also seen a spike. Coming up, how law enforcement is tackling these issues while resources are low. We'll be right back. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
The story of Grace Med has always been told through its people, both those who serve and those who it is our honor to serve. We meet at the intersection of compassion and vulnerability, bringing health where there was illness and hope where there was despair. Our patients come to us bearing the weight of living in the margins, and we share the love of Jesus Christ with them by providing compassionate quality health care for all their physical, emotional, and spiritual needs. Because health restored is always hope renewed. Find hope today by scheduling an appointment with Grace Med.
My hopes about my chaplaincy is that I'm really gonna be a person whom officers are gonna trust to. It's where ministry of Dr. Stanley is very important to me personally. He's a mentor for me, how to bring the message across and how to bring the essence of good news to people who need it.
It just keeps getting worse. The crack keeps growing. The doors and windows stick.
This must be very frustrating. Almost no one connects that these are telltale signs that water is shifting your foundation. But it's okay. We got it.
Oh, this is done growing in this house.
Okay.
The effects of water can be surprising, but at Foundation Recovery Systems, we'll do a complete home inspection for free so you can put water back in its place. Schedule a free home inspection today.
Devon James and 27 News, honoring veterans through Veterans Salute.
We're proud to honor our veterans for their service to our country.
And we would love to share their stories. Please nominate a veteran at KSNT.com.
Be sure to watch 27 News Wednesdays at 10 p.m. as Devon James Injury Lawyers and 27 News honor our veterans with a Veteran Salute. Veteran Salute, sponsored by Devon James Injury Lawyers.
From the stories you should know.
They just ripped the ATM out of the wall.
Up in a Black Hawk helicopter.
To the stories you need to know.
Mattresses can turn into flying missiles.
From the stories that change the way you think.
Were you trying to rip me off? I think it's down there.
To the stories that affect the way you feel.
It's one big party.
Inside Edition.
These are the stories that impact your life.
Weekdays at 2 on 27 KSNT.
Welcome back. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics, where we're continuing our conversation with KBI Director Tony Mattivi. Tony, just the other day we talked about other crimes that are on the rise. You mentioned cybercrime was one of them, and then we've also seen a rise in violent crime over the years. Tell me what the KBI is seeing in these two areas.
So with regard to cybercrime, there's no question it's on the rise. The more we as a society go online, the more at risk we are to predators who also are online. Now, I wish that we at the KBI, I wish that we in law enforcement had the resources to focus on all online crime or all internet crime. We don't, right? Because resources are limited, we have to focus our efforts. So we've chosen to prioritize internet crimes against children. Typically, these manifest in the digital transmission of what we call CSAM, or child sexual abuse material. And a lot of people wonder, well, why would you focus your efforts on just the transmission of digital images? The reason that that's so concerning is that when we look backward, when we take a historical look backward at our cases, we know that over 52% of the cases that involve digital transmission of images also involve contact with a child. So we know that in more than 50% of the cases where people are sending internet images of child sexual abuse material, there is a child being victimized. And because that's such a vulnerable population, that's why we focus on that.
Okay, and then violent crime as well.
Violent crime as well. So we released the 2022 Crime Index just a short time ago. And what the Crime Index pointed out to us was that we are in the second straight year where we have seen a decrease in violent crime, but it has been a very mild decrease each year. And I don't want people to get lulled into a false sense of security, because even though we've had very mild decreases the last 2 years, we are still well above the 10-year trend line. And in fact, the violent crime rate still isn't down below pre-pandemic levels. So even though we've seen a very mild decline in recent times, it is still very high comparatively.
Yeah, and we're also seeing that increase, as we have been talking about, in fentanyl. So this, coupled with the rise in fentanyl crimes and overdoses, could be a lot to handle, especially at a time when, as you've mentioned, resources are low for law enforcement. So what sort of challenges is the KBI law enforcement facing right now, and what efforts are you looking at to address this issue?
Well, with regard to internet crimes against children, here in Northeast Kansas, we have a child victim unit that has been very successful. It's sort of a pilot project, and it's shown remarkable statistical success here in the northeast part of the state. At the KBI, we have 3 regions, Northeast, Southeast, and West. This last legislative session, the legislature, we think, did a really great job. They gave us the funding for a child victim task force in the western region of the state. So right now we're in the process of staffing up a child victim unit that we're going to house out in our Great Bend office. And then this coming year, we're going to be back in front of the legislature asking for a child victim unit in the Southeast region to sort of close the loop on tackling the internet crimes against children. Similarly, this last legislative session, the legislature gave us about a 12% enhancement to our budget. Part of that was for the child victim unit. The other part was to what we call surge capability, and right now we're going to focus that surge capability on violent crime, but in particular on fentanyl.
So really, the solution is beefing up these resources, you think?
We have to. We're just spread so thin. Historically, the KBI has been underfunded, under-resourced, and over-assigned. And unfortunately, even though the legislature tries very hard to take care of us, we are still spread very thinly across the state.
Thank you, Tony. And that was your look inside Kansas politics. If you want to keep up to date on all things Kansas politics, then follow us on social media. Follow us on Twitter at @InKansasPolitics and on Facebook. Just search Inside Kansas Politics. We'll also post the full video on YouTube. Just search KSNT News and check ksnt.com/inside-kansas-politics for past episodes. If you have a story you want Kansas state legislators to hear or topics you think we should cover, let us know. Email us at ikp@ksnt.com. We'll see you right here, same time, same place. Have a good day.